Hello, everyone, and welcome this time around to Guildmaster Gaming. This time we have a writer and actor and a director of a short film called OUTCAST FOREST, another little film that we saw at FilmQuest this year, which was nominated for Best Fantasy Short. And I think it really deserves that nomination because of the work of these two gentlemen. So we have Frank Rudsepp, who is the director of the film, and Caleb Wells, who was the writer and also the star in the film. So we'll start with Frank. Please introduce yourself, and then we'll tell us a little bit about your position, what you did on the film, and then we'll have Caleb introduce himself and tell us a little bit more and about the film. Frank.
Sure. Hi, my name is Frank Rudsepp. I'm a writer-director based here in Estonia, Tallinn. I spent the last 7 years living in New York City, where I was working on films and TV shows, and now I'm here in Estonia working on my next projects. Outcast Forest came to me through Caleb, who reached out to me with this amazing Viking story. And since we had worked together previously in film school years ago, I figured I'd be a potentially a good match for it since I'm from Estonia and we have our own Viking roots as well, which hasn't really been told before. So I thought it was a good opportunity to explore my heritage. So it was a great place to start.
All right. And Caleb.
I'm Caleb Wells. I'm an actor, and I also write and produce, living in New York City. And I'm I'm happy to be here. Happy to be in this place. This little movie, Outcast Forest, is a short fantasy Viking film that I wrote a couple years ago, and um, they don't make any Viking stuff in New York City, so I realized I needed to make it myself. So um, it's a little bit based off of the story comes from an underlying idea of a Scandinavian folklore. The character of a Hulder, which is the forest spirit in the film, but the themes are a little bit based on my experience going to combat with the Marines. I was deployed to Iraq, and I had some very interesting experiences there. Um, yeah, I reached out to Frank a few years ago, and we just wanted to make something that was cool and fun, with people that we loved, with a story that had some heart.
So you gave us the origin of the story there, of where it kind of came from. So, Frank, when you saw the script that Caleb put together, what was it that you said it was this draw of the Viking story with your heritage? But what was it that you felt you could bring to the telling of this story in the movie?
Um, I I mean, I saw immediately Caleb's enthusiasm for the project, and I had worked with him before in film school, as I said, and we instantly matched, I think, when we were working on this one web series. And reading this script about this, then it was a little boy in the forest that meets this giant Viking. For me, was something that I mean, it reminded me of all these films I'd seen growing up in the 90s of 13th Warrior, which was one of our big inspirations, and movies like that, or Braveheart. And those are films that I always wanted to do myself in my career. So seeing this story, which for me is a foundation for a much larger story that we're now working on, was incredibly exciting. And when it was first sent to me, it was first about a Viking from Sweden, and there was a one question I had was when I said, "Hey, any chance we could make this an Estonian Viking?" Because I think that could give us like a big a new way into looking at Vikings, because nobody has really spoken about Vikings in Estonia before. We didn't have a lot of them, but we it's quite a big part of our history, and I wanted to be one of the first people to really put them onto the onto the big screen. So immediately I was drawn to that element that I could put my Estonian language, a soundtrack as well made of Estonian instruments and Estonian songs. It was something I've always wanted to do, never having lived in Estonia myself, as a way to kind of connect with with my roots. So seeing this really great story, I thought this is the one project that I really want to do going forward.
Okay, so you're connecting with your Estonian roots. The one thing I'm kind of wondering is now, Caleb, when you're in the movie and how you look right now, you do have that look that a lot of people associate with being, the warrior Norseman. Is this part of your heritage also?
I do have I had a great grandfather that emigrated from Sweden to New York in 1902. So I do have a little bit of Swedish in my blood. And I love that. I connect to that. I connect to being a Marine, being from a warrior culture. Uh, and so this was a great opportunity to explore that and have fun with it because we all love watching Viking stuff. And so this was our opportunity to actually do it ourselves.
Okay. So it sounds like neither one of you have been actively LARPing out these characters outside the
Hmm.
film.
No, not yet. Not yet anyway.
Not yet. New idea there.
Exactly.
So, this was a film that it's got some great things, and you're nominated for the fantasy of it. Like you said, it's dealing with the forest sprite. And I just wanted to thank you for some of this because um, I studied religions when I was in school.
Mm,
And in fact, I think my latest Christmas gift was actually a collection. And yep, and there is the Norse myths right there.
mm.
Oh, beautiful.
So I found this a lot of fun. And also when you talk about the 13th warrior, I thought there was some of that there, and I'm glad to hear that because the use of language in this was kind of similar to what they did in 13th warrior. I think people will find that very interesting because you you develop that overcoming the language barrier, which is an element that so many films kind of skip over. And I can see by your reaction, Caleb, that was something that was important to you to kind of deal with that.
Of course. I mean, that's also part of this idea of found family that comes in the movie. There's these three outcasts that have to come together, and it actually only their stories only work out because they come together and have to communicate, but it's not direct, and they have to figure that out. And that's exactly what came out of 13th Warrior that I loved so much about that movie is, and Antonio Banderas' character figuring out the language so he could be a part of this team, so he could hopefully not die in the end. Um, so that was absolutely a big inspiration for a part of that.
Okay, so we saw the film at Film Quest. How are you guys doing? I'll leave this to whoever wants to answer. How are you guys doing on the festival circuit? Are you kind of at the start, near the end, or are you in the middle? What I'm kind of looking at is if people want to go see your short, is there any place that you can announce yet that has accepted your film and showing it?
I'll take that. I'm hoping that we're halfway through. We started in April. We've been to 8, 10 festivals, couple awards. It's not public yet, and we're just waiting on uh, about 10 to 15 more to get back to us. So we're hopeful for another 4 to 6 months of festivals, and then we'll likely put it out public. But that takes me to in the next 6 months during the end of our festival run, we're going to be taking the pitch and taking the feature script, which I have written
Oh.
of this story because it's a proof of concept for a feature, and trying to get it made in Estonia as well, which is I think one of the reasons that Frank moved back and is working with a lot of the people that we want to work with when we make the feature.
Yeah, and I think as well with the festivals right now, we're now kind of waiting on the European part of our festival circuit because we've been mostly showing in the US at the moment, but now there's a few festivals coming up, also some in Estonia that we really want to show the film at and see how we connect to European audiences, which is very important to us. And as Caleb says, I'll be here talking to people and working on getting this film made.
And I have a feeling if it plays in Estonia, they're going to have a very different reaction to hearing it in their own language.
Yeah, true. But I've shown it to like quite a lot of Estonian colleagues of mine, and it's getting good feedback on the Estonian language, which is great to hear because we had a couple of weeks to learn to teach Caleb and Valerie, our two actors who had to speak Estonian in the film, and they had never spoken Estonian before. So we had 3 weeks to teach them their lines in Estonian, and it came out great. Everybody says well that it's clearly recognizable, and then if anything, the fact that they're not native speakers make it sound like it is an older form of Estonian, like an older language that we're now like rediscovering. So people are liking the Estonian elements to it, which is very near and dear to my heart.
Okay. And you've already touched on that. This is a pilot in a sense, or a proof of concept for a feature that you're working on. Uh, any type of timeline yet of when that might be going into production, or is that what Frank is working on, getting all those connections together right now?
Well, I think he has the connections, most of the connections that we need in the country. He can speak to more who he's been working with, but um, the script is like about to be in pitch format so that it's ready to go. And so now it's just a matter of getting the right meetings, I think, to figure out, we need a studio, we need money, we need some big actors involved. And so that'll be a long process. So I'm assuming if we can shoot in 2026, I would be very, very happy because I know this is going to be quite a big movie. We need to build a Viking settlement. We need to build a Saxon town, and it's like an indie epic. It's like 13th Warrior size of film, not studio film as far as money, but I'm talking about actors and going on an adventure. It'll be an indie version of that, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 2026 is realistic. Here in Estonia, we have different times to apply for grants by the government, and they're coming up in a couple of months. And I've been trying to work this past year for all these different production companies in Estonia on different films and projects, just to kind of see the lay of the land and see what everybody's doing here. So now that I've started to meet with these people and work with them, now we're starting to actively look for partners for this project, which I'm very hopeful for. So yeah, I think 2026, given that we're going to start pitching this year, is what we're looking at, and looking at co-productions and countries that also want to invest in this film is something we will be looking at this year.
All right. So it sounds like there's a lot of future still left in the Outcast Forest for us to look forward to. Uh, just real quickly on that topic, where can people kind of follow up with you guys on social media if they want to track this out and see what's happening?
For both of us, I mean, an easy way where we keep posting about this project is our Instagrams at the moment, which for me is just my name, Frank Rudsepp, and for Caleb, I believe it's Huggy Viking. But we also have a website that I think we have to reactivate again as we're going to start uh, pitching on this project and getting more hype around it again. But other than that, at the moment, we're mainly posting on our Instagrams with any little festival updates and awards and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I'm sure there's going to be people that I know are going to be following up and tracking to see what's going on. So let's kind of flip it now to you guys. We've talked about your film, the inspiration, where that came from, the inspiration, what you put into it. But what was your personal inspiration for wanting to become a filmmaker?
Hmm.
Frank, you go.
Yeah, I think at first for me it was I was just remember being 4 or 5, and the first thing I said career-wise to my parents was I said is I want to be an actor. So for the longest time I that's what I was pursuing as a kid, was going to acting classes and doing plays here and there, and just always watching films that had characters that I wanted to play, and that's when I saw films like 13th Warrior and Braveheart. And it was a lot of times it was period pieces that I was really drawn to, because I always felt like I was the last kid on the playground, that when we were making playing make believe characters and whatnot. Because I always wanted to keep improving and playing. And for me, filmmaking was that kind of gateway into the into that world that I wanted to explore. And even now, whatever I'm also like on the side that I'm writing, it's usually it is a lot of period pieces because I'm drawn to stories that happen in times that that explore times that we've already experienced and kind of learn lessons from history and to kind of inspire new new generations and whatnot. So it really was this, the first moments at the playground that kind of drew me into filmmaking.
Okay. Caleb's
I
waiting.
I'm next. I'm next. I came to New York 13 years ago with the intention of figuring out what I was going to do with the rest of my life because I had just left 6 years on active duty with the Marines, and I was working in finance, and I knew immediately that's not what I wanted to do. But it was a job that kept me. It allowed me to live in the big city, and I had met some actors and some people that worked in film and TV and thought they were cool and tried an acting class, and I just loved it. And acting became a very therapeutic way to deal with my past and my everything I went through in the Marines. And so I connected with it very deeply. And I just kept having fun doing it. And so I kept doing it. And that eventually led to film school where I met Frank and studied producing, film school again for screenwriting, got my MFA in screenwriting. And it is just kind of like built out of I have fun doing this. Can I keep doing this and make a career out of it? And I've loved the people that I've met and the things I've been able to do. And I think that one of the coolest things is I get to create stories and characters and movies that uh, are the things that I loved watching in the past because I grew up overseas. My dad was military, and we grew up going to the theater and watching the big tentpole movies. And my dad using those movies to like teach us life lessons and teach us about good and evil and being a good person. And so I think it was just reconnecting with my past as well. Um, and, and now it's all I want to do.
I do understand about taking what you have fun with and making it your career, as you can see around me. Um, uh,
No, I
so yeah,
love it.
that's some great stuff. I mean, it sounds like you guys got some things. Do you have any other projects besides the feature that you guys are working on that people might be able to watch out for? Go ahead and start with Caleb, and then we'll go down to Frank.
I don't have anything active out there. I mean, you can go on Amazon and watch me in a handlebar mustache in the 1980s on Red Oaks, which is a series I did, which was first one of the first big acting jobs I had years ago. But the stuff that I don't have anything else out active. I'm working on a bunch of things and hopefully gonna be making them in the next year or two.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a small selected bit of my works on my website, which is frankrudsepp.com. But I think same with Caleb right now. There's all these projects in the works that I'm trying to now finally get made because I was also in this bit of my career where I was just working for different films and TV show for different networks and always wanting to direct, but really wanting to make sure I'm first working in all these different departments and learning how everything is put together. So this step into now full-time directing is still pretty recent. So in terms of short films, I think Forest is really the biggest one I've done so far. So there's some smaller stuff to see, but I think the bigger stuff are to come with our next project.
Okay. Now we're going to flip. We'll start off with Frank with this one. Outside of Outcast Forest feature, what would be your dream project to be able to work on?
Um, I have a project that I think I've wanted to do for years as well. I've talked to Caleb as well about this, is I reached out to my family in Estonia years ago, and I asked them all about our family stories during the Second World War. Because Estonia in the Second World War was interesting, where it was occupied by both Russia and also Germany at one points of time. So depending where you lived geographically, if you lived in the north, you were put to fight for Russia. If you were in the south, you were more likely put to fight for Germany. And and in a fight that wasn't even ours to really fight, we were fighting this proxy war, and we were just battling against each other. And it was really a war of brothers against brothers, more often. So every family in Estonia has these incredible stories of Estonians uh, trying to like not fight each other, and these little stories of hope and how we kept our Estonian identity during that time. And I've wanted to put that together into a TV show of different stories where I can use real life Estonian stories and show them. And I think it's a necessary those are necessary stories to tell at this current political climate. So I'm hoping that outside of Outcast Forest, it's something I can continue to pursue.
That sounds very powerful. Caleb.
Thanks.
I've written the next Die Hard, and it's been in my folder for years, but I, you know, also connecting a lot with Die Hard and Bruce Willis and those movies. I would like to make that and take over the franchise almost as like, John McClane's son who, you know, comes back and works with the daughter and fights big crime bosses and all that stuff.
Okay.
And cracks the and is the wisecracking, joke cracking family.
So we got Die Hard, the next generation.
Yeah.
Hey, okay. Those sound like some big things, some fun things to kind of work on, see what's out there. So I'm going to finish up with one question here, and then I'll let you make a statement on anything you want. But the final question is, if you had someone come to you and say, I want to be a filmmaker, what piece of advice would you give them?
I think on my end, it would be is is to just start shooting, start making things and just put things together, especially with the like with your friends. I think a lot of people get stuck behind wanting to make like the next big project that's gonna launch their careers. But if you're not actively shooting short stories, short projects as often as you can, you're never going to learn what works and what doesn't. And I was stuck in that rut for a while as well, where I wanted to just shoot this one project. I'm not going to do anything until I get the funding that I need. But you're never going to get the funding if you don't start shooting and making stuff. That for me was the main thing to learn, as well as, finding your group of friends that want to get together and just make stuff happen. Me and Caleb, outside of we met in film school, but we stayed in touch, and we were just two friends that wanted to make a kick-ass Viking film. And I think that's kind of the other thing of is like find your friends and just go and shoot.
Okay.
I agree. It's going to be this along the same lines because we made Outcast Forest with a 30-person crew, and every single one of them were um, people we've worked with before, close friends, people we knew were very good at their job, professionals, and very kind people. And that's the only people that you want to work with because you're in a very intense environment, 12, 14 hours a day shooting. You want people with some grit who know their job and will do their job well. And you just got to make sure they're caffeinated and fed well, and they're gonna do it. And it doesn't matter how long the day is. If you treat them well, feed them well, exactly, they're gonna be great. Um, so again, the advice would be go make mistakes and be comfortable with the mistakes, because that's going to be the way that you're going to be really good. Make as much as you can, make something as best as you can, and move on to the next thing. That's one of the great pieces of advice that came out of one of the panels at FilmQuest, was from these distributors, is make something the best you can and move on and make the next thing. Don't try to make the next big thing. Don't try to make your Outcast Forest is like my baby. It's my passion project right now, but I still can't put all of my eggs in one basket. I can't predict the future of this and say it's going to be this big thing if I just put everything into it. I'm going to make it the best I can and keep moving, and that's going to be a way you're going to make a career, because you're going to make all these mistakes and learn from all of them and become a really good filmmaker. So go make mistakes, go shoot as much as you can.
Okay. We want to thank Caleb and Frank for joining us today here on Guildmaster Gaming. And I'm going to give you guys a moment to think about any last statements you would like to make. I always joke with people and say, this is your chance to practice your Oscar speech. But if you like what we've got here going on, please like, the video, share it out to people that you think would be interested. Because I already know a few people. I'm going to be letting them. I've already talked to them about Outcast Forest because some of the people I know. I think it's going to be a fun project to kind of keep an eye on, see what you guys do with. And if you subscribe to the channel, that gives us the opportunity to do more of this. So we want to thank you again. And Frank, Caleb, whoever wants to go first, what are any final thoughts or statements you'd like to make?
Uh, I'm very happy with what we already discussed, but I want to thank you for this opportunity to have this interview and kind of bring more eyes on this project that means so much to both Caleb and I. So just from on my end, I just want to thank you, and I'm excited to see what happens with Outcast Forest.
And I'm just grateful I get to make movies, and I'm grateful to the the people in my life that are talented, and I get to work with to make them, as well as you know the festivals and the people at FilmQuest, um, that promote and encourage that. Because coming out of FilmQuest, it was especially nice to hear, like, they just love movies and they want us to make as many as we can. But let's be grateful that we just get to make movies and enjoy doing that.
All right. Once again, thank you for joining us. Everyone, have a great day, and we'll talk again soon. Take
Thanks,
care.
man.
Thank you.